好啦，咁咧就大家好啦，咁咧就準備咧就英國時間啦11點啦，咁啊香港時間咧就應該係7點啦，咁就會有烏克蘭啦、國防部啦同埋官方嘅直播啦，咁就我哋轉播翻佢出嚟啦，咁就大家咧就可以自己可以睇到啦。咁啊，真正烏克蘭裏邊嘅官方發布嘅消息，咁就同出邊轉述嘅新聞嗰啲咧係有少少唔同嘅，咁所以其實咧就比較直接啲，咁但係咧就我哋都提翻大家啦，咁啊始終都係官方嘅嘢，咁啊當然係 fact check 咗啦，咁啊但係並不是100%一定係正確嘅，即係每一個政府都會有少少 bias 嘅，咁呢啲嘢咧。就大家咧，即係我哋轉播嘅時候咧，大家咧會睇到。咁呢一個咧就會係用英文轉播啦。咁啊，同時咧，大家就會更加清楚啦。今日咧就有2場嘅會議啦。咁啊，介紹一下啦。第一場咧就會係由呢個烏克蘭嘅國防部中心嘅副主席，亦即係咧就係唔係烏克蘭國防戰略中心嘅副主席啦，亦都係烏克蘭國防部嘅副部長。咁咧就係係啦，咁啊佢咁樣括住日期咧，應該係由19年就係開始上任啦。咁啊佢咧就會講翻過去1個月啦，咁啊全面戰鬥之後咧。咁啊，佢哋嘅國防戰略中心嘅專家咧，喺黑海啦，同埋亞速海嘅安全同埋經濟形勢啦，同埋呢個軍事威脅嘅有一啲聯合彙報啦。咁啊，亦都會講翻唔同嘅戰略重點啦。咁另外咧，喺基輔時間2點咧，即係香港時間大概8點啦。亦即係英國時間嘅12點咧，就會有一個咧，就係另一個段嘅簡報嘅，係啦。咁嗰個簡報咧，就係主要題目咧，就講緊基輔同埋基輔州啊嚇。基輔係一個城市啦，咁啊其實城市都好大嘅，即係市中心同埋連埋基輔州裏邊嘅。防禦啦嘅措施啦，咁啊由呢個烏克蘭嘅武裝部隊嘅地面部地面部隊嘅司令部嘅副參謀長，咁啊講呢一個嘅，咁咧我哋咧就會同大家一齊落去噶啦，咁我哋通常咧就會直落噶啦。咁咧，即係話1點大概佢可能會1點半完，或者1點45分啦，或者點都好啦。咁咧，跟住咧，我哋會一路直落。咁就我會同大家做節目啦。咁啊，同大家睇下現時嘅情勢啦。咁啊，而家我哋咧就等緊佢哋條 stream 啊。咁啊，一有咧，我哋咧就會掉出嚟俾大家噶啦。咁就會轉播。咁而家咧就睇下先啊。咁咧。一陣間咧準備咗好多資料啊，俾大家喺2段新聞直播中間咧，我哋咧就會係同大家傾啦。咁咧，我而家睇下現場嗰個情況先啊，條 stream。咁啊，頭先啊同大家聽完Joe Biden 啦，同埋歐盟嗰個啦，咁啊喺度傾啦，咁啊睇咗好多嘢啦，咁啊 OK 都係講嗰幾句嘅啫嚇。咁唔知係咪真係仲係吹水啦？咁啊答大家唔到啦。咁啊，拭目以待啦。
So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here at Ukraine Media Center.
等等啦，好啦，有啦，應該我見到啦，係啦。 好啦，咁咧就可以開始啦。
So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here at Ukraine Media Center. We work here in Kiev helping foreign journalists in their work in Ukraine. Also, we run briefings, press briefings on subjects of interest to Ukrainian media and foreign media. And today we will have two briefings. The first one will be by an expert, and we'll continue it now. That's consolidated briefing by experts initiated by the Center for Defense Strategies about security and economic situation, as well as military threats in Black and Azov Sea after 1 month of full-scale war that the Russian Federation has been conducting in Ukraine. And it's to start right now. Our second briefing will start at 2 p.m., and that second briefing will be about defense of Kiev and Kiev province, and the speaker there will be Brigadier General, Deputy Chief of General Staff of Land Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Hruzevych. All our broadcasts, all our briefings are broadcasted in our YouTube channel and in our Telegram channel. We provide some summary of news or key statements by our speakers, so you're welcome to subscribe to our channels. So we are to start our briefing about the security situation, economic situation, military threats in Black Sea and Sea of Azov after 1 month of full-scale war, the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine. I'm Alina Frolova, and I'm deputy head of Center for Defense Strategies, an independent think tank. I used to be a Minister of Defense of Ukraine in 2019-2020. Andriy Ryzhenko is an expert from Center of Defense Strategies, first-rank captain, reserve of Ukrainian Navy of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Andrii Klymenko, head of Black Sea Strategic Studies Institute and editor-in-chief of Black Sea News publication. And Mykhailo Honchar, president for Center for Globalism and Strategies 21st Century, editor-in-chief of Black Sea Security magazine. So I'm to start this press briefing. I will make some brief introduction, and then I will give the floor to each of our experts, and maybe we'll ask for some clarification. So basically about the threats on Black Sea and Sea of Azov, many experts discussed such threat within the context of the illegal occupation of Crimea. After the launch of the Crimea platform, which was launched 1 year ago, there was a separate track there about security and defense, including the matters of Black Sea and Sea of Azov, because we believe that occupation is not just about Crimea as such, but it's also about Black Sea and Sea of Azov. Those threats, those dangers in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov, as we understand, have been caused by the Russian Federation, and they were increasing, and partially that increase was about the lack of clear standing of Western countries, which are not Black Sea countries, about Russia increasing their military presence in Crimea, using Crimea as their base, and in the Black Sea. I'd like to remind you that in Black Sea and Sea of Azov, there have been the movement of commercial vessels was blocked every now and then. There were threats against civilian vessels and aircraft, ships and aircraft. There was Ukrainian gas stolen by the continental shelf, and from time to time access to Ukrainian ports was blocked. And basically we believe that one of the factors which, as I mentioned, contributed to the development of that insecurity of in Black Sea and Sea of Azov was about the lack of strategic position, strategic standing of NATO in that region. Even though among Black Sea countries there are some countries which are NATO members, NATO allies. What we see now is also a situation that was forecasted by experts who said that if there was a full-scale aggression of Russia against Ukraine, Russia would try to take full control of Sea of Azov, including Ukrainian coast and Ukrainian coast of the Black Sea, because these are strategically important locations for the economy of Ukraine, for its exports, for exports of food and non-food items. Now Russia has fully blocked economic activity there, and global experts already say that a crisis is expected because it's impossible to transport food, including grain, which may result in hunger and economic problems on the global scale. So now we are to discuss comprehensively the security in Black Sea and Sea of Azov. What can we do in this situation? What is the current situation? Unfortunately, yesterday, after the NATO meeting of NATO summit yesterday, we have not heard any clear position of NATO, how NATO as an alliance would respond to this existing configuration that has appeared in Black Sea. Let's remember that those threats from the Black Sea and Sea of Azov are projected to the Mediterranean Sea and affect a much broader region. Now I'm to give the floor to Andriy Ryzhenko. He will be able to comment on the military aspect of what's going on, and he will share his view as an expert about those events and possible developments. Andriy, you're welcome. Good afternoon. In the Black Sea, during 1 month, there have been active combat operations. There is a war on sea, and by February 23 this year, Russian Federation concentrated about 45 battleships and boats in Black Sea, from Black Sea Fleet, Northern Fleet, and Caspian Fleet. I'd like to remind that from Baltic Sea and Northern Sea, they brought about 60% of their big landing ships, and the total number of big landing ships has amounted to 11. And then they were split into 2 tactical groups. One of those operating in the Black Sea, having 7 ships, and the other one in the Sea of Azov. In both cases, those landing ships were covered by fire support from other ships, fire support ships, and they were operating in that form until yesterday. Armed forces of Ukraine made a rocket strike on the port of Berdyansk when 4 Russian landing ships were being unloaded there. So at least one of those has been fully destroyed. One of them has been broken to a very serious extent, and 2 other ships have also been damaged. And so the landing group, which was operating in the Sea of Azov, has been inoperable for some time. Now it cannot operate. But the other group of 7 landing ships and up to 10 other ships operating in the Black Sea has been between Crimean Peninsula and Odessa, Zatoka coast, and from time to time it checks whether our troops are ready about landing. They will only be able to land if they take Mykolaiv, but Mykolaiv has been defending very fiercely, very resilient, in a very resilient way, and that landing would only make sense if it's supported from the ground. And that's about eastern direction. It's about Mykolaiv area, Russian troops in Mykolaiv area, and Transnistria from Dnistro from northwestern part. Also, since the beginning of the war, Russia has brought about 20 ships and vessels from Pacific Fleet and Northern Fleet, including 2 1164 project cruises to the Mediterranean, and 2 Turkey has been acting in a very positive way. They just blocked those straits, Black Sea straits, in accordance with Montreal Convention. So those ships have been unable to arrive to the Black Sea to support the Russian troops there, which has helped us very seriously in defending Odessa and Mykolaiv, because those ships are practically every day making artillery strikes against Odessa and other ports in Black Sea region. But in the Sea of Azov, until yesterday, it's known that they were making rocket strikes. They have systems similar to ground multiple launch systems, to Grad systems. They have similar systems in their ships. So the main assignments, the main tasks for the Russian Federation fleet could be split into three categories in Black Sea and Black Sea Azov. First of all, blocking ports and bases, Ukrainian ports and bases. So practically, actually, all ports have been blocked. If civilian ships try to access Ukrainian ports in Black Sea, they were fired without any warning, with artillery strikes or rockets. And it's known that at least one ship under Panama flag was sunk near Odessa. Also, they act against Ukrainian ships. There is not a lot of those, but they still go to the sea to control the sea. And all the time, a Russian Federation hunts those Ukrainian ships and uses weapons against them. The second category is countering, basically this, countering Ukrainian Navy in the sea. But they are afraid of coming closer than 5 sea miles, because our coast artillery immediately gets engaged, and then it makes artillery strikes, it strikes. And it's known, it has not been finally confirmed, but we know that at least 2 ships of Russian Federation were damaged by our coast artillery, and 1 Russian ship has been damaged because of a strike by multiple launch rocket system. And the third task, the third category, is about landing. Maybe that's their main task. There was a plan to land in the Sea of Azov, but they dropped it because quite quickly they took the ports of Genichsk and Berdyansk. But then they reformatted that group for logistics through the port of Berdyansk. Berdyansk has a very advantageous location in Sea of Azov between Genichsk and Mariupol, so cargoes were brought there and enemy's troops were brought there, but they are not being brought there anymore now. In the Black Sea, landing still a possibility, an intriguing possibility. There have already been 3 attempts. Now the Russians are not trying to do it. I already mentioned the main reason. They need some support from the ground. And we know that those units, which by the end of February were on those ships, have been on the ground since long ago. They have been transferred to Mariupol, Brigade 810, of Russian Marines, and they incurred big losses near Mykolaiv, near Mykolaiv, and Mariupol, and they incurred big losses near Mykolaiv. So now the situation is as follows. In Black Sea, we control the key ports, including Odessa, Pivdenny, Chernomorsk, Achakiv, and Mykolaiv. So virtually all ports. But civilian seafarer cannot take place because of threats from Russian Federation. They destroy ships by artillery and rockets. Also, recently, there was a fake disseminated by a captain of Sochi port, whereby allegedly in the northwestern part there see mines, a lot of those. That's absurd, because, 420 mines, they cannot be taken from their anchors and be just moving there in that part. There has been information that Romanian Navy tried to look for mines and they haven't found anything. But now there has been some information that allegedly the Russians tried to send those ships which are in Ukrainian ports through so-called Green Corridor. That cannot be done because most probably there will be some provocation, and some of those ships would be destroyed. When the Russians say that allegedly there are some mines there, so it cannot be done. That Green Corridor cannot be used, and also the Turkish Navy confirmed that there is a mine threat. Now the defense of Odessa continues, defense of Mykolaiv continues, and combat action in the city of Mariupol continues, which is the last port in the Sea of Azov. In the last 3 weeks, the city of Mariupol has been defending under complete siege. It has been defended by the Ukrainian Marines and Azov Regiment of the National Guard. And they are very brave, very courageous, self-sacrificing and creative. A difficult situation, but Mariupol is still defending. The key needs of Ukrainian Navy are as follows. They need to take control of that part of the sea, and it's about artillery. But in terms of support, we know that there are some items which would significantly increase the capability of our Navy. That's the situation as of today. Thank you, Andrii. So that was Andrii Klymenko. Now I'd like to give the floor to you and to hear your views, especially taking into account that your group, Now about the situation in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov. Andrii, can you hear us? Can you hear us? So we seem to have some problem. While we are reconnecting, I'd like to tell you that the group led by Andrii Klymenko monitors and gathers data, collects data to be able to analyze the trends in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov, like its economic impact, blocking of ships, movement of Russian warships and battleships, and all other data about security situation in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov. About the northwestern part of the Black Sea, Andrii, I'm sorry, could you please repeat? Andrii, could you please repeat? Can you hear me? Could you please repeat from the very beginning, because we had a technical problem. So please repeat again from the very beginning. Thank you. Okay, then. So welcome, everybody. On the 24th of February, that is to say, on the very first day, a wide-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine, the Russian Federation issued a warning whereby it completely blocked the Sea of Azov for ships with Ukrainian ports, and well, the traffic of Russian ships through Kerch Strait to Russian ports in the Sea of Azov continues, and it continues actively even now. And the Russian Federation has also blocked the northwestern part of the Black Sea from Zmyny Island to the north. So that's approaches to all Russian ports, Ukrainian ports, sorry, in the Black Sea, because of so-called special military operation. By that time and until now, in Black Sea ports, according to our calculations, there have been at least 64 foreign ships there, while in the Sea of Azov, in the port of Mariupol, there are 6 foreign ships, while in the port of Berdyansk, until the 15th of March, there were 5 foreign ships. From the port of Berdyansk on the 15th of March, Russian fleet expelled those civilian ships, pushed them out of the port of Berdyansk in order to provide that port of Berdyansk as a logistical hub to supply the Russian troops in Zaporizhia and Donetsk provinces. That's what our colleague already mentioned. Now, after those ships spent almost 10 days at the entry to Kerch Strait from the Sea of Azov, reached the Black Sea, and now they're moving there, and we hope that they will reach their respective destinations. All the other ships remain there in Black Sea ports. And I would like to mention the following. Yesterday, the Russian Federation, its Ministry of Defense, announced the creation from the morning till this evening, tonight, of so-called humanitarian corridor, so that those cargo ships from Ukraine and ports in the Black Sea would be able to leave them and go to their home bases. In fact, this is a very cynical thing, because it is well known that, as my colleague Ryzhenko mentioned, there have been combat operations in the Black Sea, and at least 5 commercial vessels have been damaged because of rockets and artillery shells, and at least 1 ship sunk, and there are deaths and wounded seamen on those ships, among foreigners there. And finally, there have been those messages about mines in the Black Sea. I'd like to add something. On the 19th of March this year, Ukrainian Navy issued the warning which said that the Black Sea fleet of the Russian Federation has installed mines in the area of Black Sea around the Dunai, the orifice of Dunai, the only way from Ukraine to the west, and mines around the island, Zmyny Island, where is the route from Bosphorus Strait to Ukraine's Black Sea ports. And that was used as a fake operation, humanitarian action, which should have the following goals. First, if in the Black Sea there is actually any mine threat, mine danger, then it should be eliminated. So an international group of those ships of minesweepers should be brought to the Black Sea. We have them in Turkey and Ukraine, and those minesweeper ships should be covered from the sea and from the air, because it's not a secret that from the Black Sea and from the air above the Black Sea, Russian Federation has been sending rockets to the territory of Ukraine, not only to the coastal cities, but also to remote cities and towns, to Lviv province, the Rivne province, and other provinces of Ukraine. So it should stop. And finally, those minesweepers, that minesweeper vessel group for humanitarian operations, should be covered from the air side. Another goal, another objective to be implemented within this humanitarian action is a recovery of sea traffic from ports of Odessa region. The matter is this: in those ports in Odessa region, there has been a lot of grain, and that's precisely the grain discussed by the whole world, saying that when there is a lack of exports of grain from Ukraine, it will result in a food crisis, at least in African countries, which are the key buyers of that grain. And another problem that I would like to draw your attention to is this. In this situation, in these circumstances, active sea traffic continues to export Russian oil, crude oil from Russian Black Sea ports to European countries. In 10 days alone, since March 14 to March 24, through Turkish straits, 77 tankers passed them with Russian crude oil, and they have transported 4,400,000 tons of Russian crude oil, 4.4 million tons of crude oil. And the total of this oil amounts to 440 caliber cruise missiles. So this is a blooded crude oil. That's about an opportunity for the Russian Federation to finance continuation of missile strikes against Ukraine. It should stop immediately. I'd like to note that the destination ports of those tanker ships include Rotterdam, French ports, and Italian ones. So we would like to ask the international community to request that this bloody export of Russian oil should stop, of Russian crude oil. And the last thing, in order to implement this international naval humanitarian operation in Black Sea, it should be requested that the Russian Federation should stop military action in the Black Sea, and ships of the Black Sea Fleet and other fleets should be removed from those areas mentioned by Captain Ryzhenko, because otherwise it would result in crisis not only in the Ukrainian economy, and it has already resulted in such crisis, but it will also result in that food crisis which I described, and it will also result in losses among foreign ships, among the crews on those ships, and only after, and only in that case, foreign ships can be taken out of Ukraine, can be removed, can move from Ukrainian ports. Otherwise, Ukraine cannot undertake the responsibility for safe passage of foreign ships from Ukrainian ports. Thank you. Thank you, Andriy. Now, Mykhailo, you're welcome to share your position, and if you could cover also the economic component and the energy component, because you're also an expert on those subjects. Thank you, Alina. Welcome, dear colleagues. I will start precisely with general economic situation. For Western media try to understand what has been happening and what will happen, and they made some conclusion that speaking about Ukrainian Black Sea ports, it's about the economic war by Russia, and stopping a normal trade will not only deprive Ukraine of resources to support its military efforts, but will also result for losses for each country worldwide, direct or indirect losses. That's not any overestimation. Ports around Black Sea and Sea of Azov are used for about 75% of Ukrainian exports of grains. Ukraine has been supplying, accounting for 13% of the global amount of corn, and about the same for wheat, which means that failures of problems with trade in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov, Ukraine, may result in food problems worldwide. Ukrainian ports also account for 80% of exports. Sorry, couldn't hear. So that's a statement which is widespread by now, and we see news from various countries that from Zimbabwe about grain problems, from Bulgaria about problems with seed oil, and those problems will only be increasing, and they need some response not only from countries in the Black Sea region, but also, as my colleagues noted, we need some immediate action to eliminate, to neutralize the consequences of that Russian activity and to block that activity. And the Black Sea also plays an important role about transportation, about energy, and also this region is in the initial stage of using offshore resources in the Black Sea. I mean the energy resources, energy deposits, first of all, natural gas. I'd like to remind you some story of 8 years old. Often we forget about those events in 2014, but if we think about them now, if you think about the motives of Russian aggression against Ukraine, among a number of other reasons, not the but not least one is about the energy, namely countering the implementation of several mega projects initiated by the government of Ukraine in early 2010s. With the involvement of leading US and European oil and gas companies. I mean the development of Black Sea resources, including that Skifska area, where there was tender and consortium led by ExxonMobil and including Netherlandian Shell and Petrol, Ukrainian subsidiary, won in that tender. And that was a mega project. And if successful, it would bring huge volumes of natural gas to the Ukrainian market, which would make it unnecessary to import natural gas from Russia. Jointly with two other big projects which were being implemented or started in Ukraine, Yuzhevska area in Kharkiv and Donetsk Oblast, for non-conventional gas, and also in western Ukraine there is that area where Chevron, a US company, would develop non-conventional natural gas deposits. Altogether, it would make it possible for Ukraine not only satisfy its needs in natural gas, but also Ukraine could become an exporter for Central and Eastern Europe. And in Moscow, they treated it as a threat for Russia's leading oil and gas companies. First of all, Gazprom, about their interests in European and Ukrainian oil and gas market. So with occupation and illegal annexation of Crimean Peninsula and taking the development assets and property and those platforms in the northwestern part of the Black Sea, Russia has created unacceptable risks for those projects involving leading US and European oil and gas companies. So they stopped those projects, implementation of those projects. In 2020 and 21, discussions started whereby even with this occupation and control of development assets between the Crimean Peninsula and Odessa, even though Russia has been controlling that part, Naftogaz of Ukraine, Ukrainian state-run oil and gas company, started preparations for new projects to be launched, at least one project which would include Western partners in order to restore development on the Sea Shelf. Also, that active shelf project continued in another sector of the Black Sea, and it brought some positive results, making it almost self-sufficient. And last year, in the Romanian sector, and last year, in the Turkish sector of the Black Sea, close to Bulgarian and Romanian sector, some deposits have been identified. The largest gas deposit with reserve exceeding 320 billion cubic meters, more than 320 BCM. And it became a shock for Russia because they realized that the Black Sea can now really become, if not the new Northern Sea, then maybe a new Caspian Sea. I'd like to remind you that in the Romanian sector of the Black Sea, that deposit has about 70 billion cubic meters deposits, and in Turkish sector they have 4 times more. In the Ukrainian sector, the development started as early as the 1970s, and if not for Russian occupation of Crimea and taking of our assets there, then currently in the Black Sea Shelf we would be producing at least 5 BCM annually, 5 or even 8 billion cubic meters annually. These were our plans. And just to compare, I would mention that now we have been consuming about 30-something BCMs of natural gas annually. So we produce about 5. So the production of about 5 BCM is a significant contribution to our natural gas balance. So obviously those plans, of course, those plans were supported with 2 modern drilling platforms made in Singapore in early 2010s, and now it has become impossible. So about 15 billion cubic meters of natural gas during this time of illegal occupation has been, we say, stolen by Russian Federation from the Ukrainian sector of the Black Sea Shelf. 15 billion cubic meters, 15 BCM, has been stolen by Russia. So now back to the motives for this new way, for this direct military aggression by Russia. So the energy motive is not the least in that list, because Russia does not want to see any additional production, gas-producing projects in Black Sea. So it also creates threats for the Armenian sector, because Ukrainian and Armenian sectors are bordering each other, and I cannot exclude a scenario whereby some of those Ukrainian mines, as aggressors name them, allegedly leaving their anchors, may all of a sudden, in quotation marks, reach the Armenian sector precisely near those production assets of petrol company. In the same way, I believe that Russia has also been projecting those threats for Turkey in developing its deposit, which, according to President Erdogan, Turkey wants to quickly develop it in the next couple of years. So in that way, Russia wants to demonstrate that the Black Sea is like a Russian area. So in no situation should we allow the escalation model development. It was completely predictable, and Center for Defense Study and Center for Black Sea Strategic Studies predicted it, and also within our cooperation between our center and Center of Defense Strategies, we were completing our analysis right 1 week before the Russian invasion started, and we were clearly stating that there would be those negative scenarios which one would see within that context. Mykhailo, yeah, we have been running out of time, so I'd like to thank you for this exhaustive explanation. Now we'll collect the questions and maybe we'll briefly finish our briefing. You're welcome. Slava Ukraini.
In 2014, the enemy took possession of our natural gas and oil resources. This is my first question. Do we have a plan to reclaim and take back those resources once we have won this conflict? And my second question is, I noticed after living in Ukraine for 3 years that there was a significant loss of gas resources due to inefficient and ill-maintained infrastructure. What plans are there to enhance the gas delivery infrastructure in Ukraine to a modern standard so we don't actually have losses of this resource?
Це питання скоріше там.
That's a question probably not about the Black Sea as such, so I will briefly answer that one, because I believe that whatever is about infrastructure in general, we cannot even assess the losses here because of what's going on in the whole Ukraine about infrastructural losses, lost infrastructure. And after the end of this war, the Ukrainian government declared that there will be mass-scale recovery of infrastructure. I believe that it will also include the energy sector, including the energy, the household energy sector. And our question for our experts is, do you know anything, do you have any data about Ukraine's intentions to bring a lawsuit about that stolen natural gas, stolen resources lost over all those years of occupation, including this current period? Is anybody ready to answer? Mikhailo? Yes. This process is going on, and I have to say that, yes, the Naftogaz of Ukraine company has responded properly, immediately, and such lawsuits were submitted, have been submitted, and they are separately stated, both from Naftogaz of Ukraine and also in that lawsuit submitted by Ukrainian state, the Ukrainian nation. There are also certain positions. Another thing is that when we take into account the procedures and regulations in various international courts and courts of arbitration, it takes years and years and many years. So this process is going on, but we should also say that this process has to be forced by proper efforts, because the precedent created by Russia in the northwestern sector of the sea has no similarities. It can be qualified as some piracy on the one hand, but on the other hand, from international view perspective, there are different interpretations. So this is a long-term process. Now we need efforts to push the aggressor away, to force the aggressor to leave, to get back to status quo that we had before the war. Because when we just use that UN Convention on International Law of the Sea or other regulations and procedures of international courts, it will not help us, because they are just ignoring the international law. Thank you, thank you. I would like to ask the last question for Andriy Ryzhenko and for Andrii Klymenko. Do you see any possible action to be taken which would stabilize the situation or would affect, which would reduce the risks, mitigate the risks in the Black Sea, other than creation that anti-mine humanitarian group, humanitarian mission? What else can be done by the international community, by alliances, by Black Sea countries, in order to at least stabilize the situation in a very short time frame? Literally 1 minute for each of you, and we are to finish our press briefing. Andriy Ryzhenko, you're welcome. First of all, about recovery of renewal of Ukraine's sovereignty over its territories in the Black Sea area and sovereignty over the sea. That's the responsibility of Ukraine. We have been told unambiguously that Ukraine has to restore its sovereignty. I think it's about operational planning for our general staff, and that's a confidential matter. We do have some opportunities to strike the enemy, and yesterday we saw it. And now I think it's very important that our partners should supply us with those weapons that we need. And that would change in a very serious way the balance of forces in the Black Sea areas too. This month has shown that it's very effective. It's about the air combat and about fighting the armored vehicles. We just need to add that component, the sea component, and I think that we'll see it very visually. We can do it. Again, yesterday we saw it. Now I get some I see information that Russians have been bringing 4 other items, 2 ships and 2 boats to the Black Sea, but those would not replace what has been damaged yesterday. Andrii Klymenko, thank you. Andrii Klymenko. First of all, I would like all our foreign colleagues who can hear us now, I'd like them to understand that now the Black Sea is a combat theater, military theater. So any issues, any questions of lawsuits about the gas infrastructure and all that look naive now. We have to win first in this war, and after that we will bring lawsuits within the total assessment of total losses caused for Ukraine by the Russian Federation. Second, what can we do immediately in order to force Russia to change their behavior in the Black Sea? You have to stop service Russian tankers with Russian crude oil in foreign ports. It should stop, like it has been done in the UK and some other countries. Even before there have been any decisions by governments, those bloody Russian exports should stop. Otherwise, the civilized world with all its values will continue watching how Russian Federation has been destroying Ukraine, be it in on the front line or in some remote areas. And it will be going on like it was going on yesterday and the day before yesterday. 8 caliber missiles have hit Rivne province. Those are caliber missiles which I mentioned when I counted the value of Russian bloody crude oil. Every 100,000 of Russian crude oil, bloody oil, is 10 caliber missiles. They were used the day before yesterday and today and tomorrow they will be used to hit us. Thank you, thank you. I, on my behalf, would like to add that we expect that NATO and the European Union will start treating the Black Sea as the priority area for defense, and they will take their position about countering Russian aggression going on at the moment, and there will be some reaction to that threat for those Black Sea NATO allies like Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania, and also in the future NATO will understand that in order to have that detention strategy in Europe, Black Sea and Black Sea area is a decisive component. I'd like to thank everybody and to thank the journalists. Please stay here for our second briefing about the defense of Kyiv. Thank you.
好啦，咁咧我哋咧就會繼續咧就同大家分享少少節目啦。跟住咧就會去到一陣間咧，如果有第2場直播咧，咁咧我哋咧就會直接喺呢個節目裏邊啦就放出嚟啦。咁啊，而家你畫面見到咧就係有2格啦。我放翻大佢先。好嗱，有2個咧追蹤咗嘅嗱，今日咧就比較特別啦。今日咧其實多咗啲新嘅戰機電偵機啊嗰樣嘢嚟啊嚇，咁同大家講下先。等我執翻靚個 screen 先 ，OK。好，咁咧就同大家講講啦。咁咧就係而家咧就2個畫面啦。第一件事咧就同大家講下當時嗰個情況先。咁咧而家咧喺烏克蘭咧，即係近波蘭啊、羅馬尼亞嗰扎咧，就發生啲咩事啦？咁咧就今日咧有特別嘅，點解話俾你聽特別咧？就係咧就等我諗下先，揾翻出嚟先。係啦，就多咗呢架E3，咁啊有架E3咧就出嚟嘅。隻 E3咧就喺呢邊，睇下先啊！大家見唔見到隻 E3咧 ？E3係啦 ，E3啊，咁啊，掉翻過嚟啊！呢邊嘅 screen 啦，咁啊喺畫面咧左邊咧 就會見到隻 E3啦，隻 E3咧個 number 咧就係 LA59啊，即係嗰6隻飛機嘅右上角，係啦。咁咧就隔離就係隻 E3啊。今日多咗呢隻 E3，呢隻係美軍嘅 E3嚟嘅，係啦。平時就好少見嚇，應該都未見過呢隻 E3咧，睇下先啊。LA 係啦，59呢隻 E3咧就係應該係海軍嗰隻嚟。咁咧就係喺屬於海軍嘅，應該喺希臘嗰度咧有美軍嘅航空母艦群啦。咁咧就喺嗰個飛嚟嘅，哎呀，放翻大先，係啦。咁係啊，你見到藍色呢條 wood 啦，就係啦，係啦。咁少可啲有隻 E3，咁通常就用無人機嘅啫。之前咁今日都多咗咧，反而咧就多咗嗱。意大利空軍咧就一般嚟講咧都係嗱，意大利空軍係用咗呢隻啊。咁左右畫面啊，右邊畫面呢個，咁咧就可以睇到啦。唔知大家睇唔睇到啦？放翻大，係啦。放大少少啊，係睇下先。好，我試下放到最大先，咁大家睇到。係啦，咁咧就意大利空軍呢隻咧都配備咗唔同㗎啦，有個咩 AISREW 啦，咁就 Airborne Intelligence 嚟嘅，係啦。咁再加呢個偵察機 surveillance， 跟住呢個電偵機係啦，咁咧就多咗呢隻。平時咧意大利空軍咧就一般嚟講咧就喺呢啲咁嘅時候，啲鐘數咧就多數都係貨運機嚟嘅。軍用嘅運輸機啦，出嚟嘅。今日就比較特別啲多咗呢一隻。咁咧，我哋一陣間咧就會直接轉播啦。咁如果你而家先直接轉播第2輪嘅，係啦。英國時間咧就係12點，香港時間就8點咧就會有另一輪嘅嘢㗎啦。我整啲 two tips。OK， 俾少時間，哇！大家睇住先。因為咧第2場我要 update 翻啲字啊。咁咧就即將咧就有睇嘅。而家咧我整啲下邊嗰個字先，好啦，因為嗰邊嗰個就完咗㗎啦，係。好，咁咧就好，繼續同大家睇啦。一有第2場咧，咁我就同大家一路睇嗰樣嘢。 等等啦，揾下先，因為有陣時咧佢會早啊，所以我都要睇睇啲嘢。好，出咗啦，咁我準備下先啊。咁咧就重睇翻啦，大家做個畫面。咁啊，今日幾忙啊嚇，咁啊要開晒兩個 screen 同大家睇啊嚇。今日多飛機啊！好啦，咁喺呢度咧，等我整少少嘢，咁咧我咧就出個廣告，大家就唔好 skip 啦，就睇下，咁我繼續翻到嚟咧，就應該就快有直播噶啦。咁咧就睇下大家有冇嘢問啦，咁可以寫落去嘅，係啦，有嘢想同我講咧就打字，最緊要咧就大家俾下 like 啦 ，share 我哋段片啦，咁就變咗咧就會多啲人咧就會知道啦，我哋呢個節目啦，咁係啦，今日就好啲啦，咁直播室咧就今朝早都仲有啲英國時間，今朝早都仲有啲工程喺度整緊。中間又咁即管試下開咗咪先啦，因為轉播緊，我發覺又冇乜問題喎，咁跟住佢又唔係好嘈喎，咁繼續做啦。個節目就係啦，咁咧就我哋等緊下一場啦。咁咧就而家睇到咧就係兩邊畫面咧就係現時喺烏克蘭附近嘅空軍各個國家啊空軍啊唔同啊有美軍啦，咁又有意大利啦，亦都有波蘭啦嘅捷克啦嘅空軍啦喺呢頭附近啦，咁一路喺度遊弋啦，咁咧就睇下佢哋搞啲咩啦，係啦。意大利咧就今日就多咗呢嗱，其實多兩格啦，多咗意大利嗰隻G50啦嘅電蒸機啦，多用途嘅。另外咧就係一架EP3C 唔係EP3E 啦，美軍嘅喺航空母艦群嗰度起飛過嚟嘅，喺希臘嗰頭啊，有個航空母艦群咧就喺希臘嗰頭，咁就睇下先嗱，一般嚟講都係嗰幾隻啦，反而呢圖呢圖荷蘭嗰隻啦，另外咧 就美軍啦，咁啊你見到咧左邊係咪左邊啊？係睇下先，右邊畫面啊，右邊畫面嗰邊咧就會係有一隻咧就係、美軍嘅，就波音啊 C-32A 啊，咁嗰隻咧就係、應該載 DVIP 㗎。咁啊，係頭先喺 Frankfurt 啦，德國嗰邊啦，一路就經過捷克啦，而家就頭先啊，去咗邊啊？而家去到邊啊？係啦，而家喺捷克上空啦，就冇 call sign 嘅，咁啊，好，再睇下先，而家全球最多人睇嘅係咩機咧？係啦，就係呢隻美軍嘅飛機啦。咁咧就 OK， 仲有嘅，有一部埋，下次可以用下喎。咁咧情形咧就係咁啦，咁啊一路等下啦。咁啊第二個就講啦，第二嚟緊呢個咧就係、由呢個主題咧就係講基輔啦，同埋基輔州嘅防禦。咁啊由呢個準將啊，咁啊名梗係唔識讀啦，烏克蘭文。咁啊係俄羅斯武裝部隊嘅地面部隊嘅司令部嘅副參謀長，係啦，哇好長啊，好複雜啊。咁啊呢個副參謀長咧就會同大家講嘅。咁其實咧，佢哋咧其實呢個發佈會咧，其實喺基輔嘅一間酒店啦 ，Skylord Hotel 啊，其實咁啊有埋電話噶啦，有得聯絡噶，其實係啊，咁啊亦都方便駐烏克蘭嘅記者啦，去做翻啲唔同嘅聯絡啦、協調啦。咁其實佢哋有啲講翻咧，就有啲要求嘅，即係出俾啲 journalist 嘅話，就係講到明咧，就係要個半鐘頭前咧就要到㗎啦個 event。咁啊點解咧？其實即係嗱有原因嘅，即係同大家講講啦。因為點解個半鐘頭前咧個會？因為一入去咧要進行安檢啦，要查證啦。咁啊，嗰樣嘢就唔會話你一行到入去咧就 OK 嘅，因為全部都係佢哋嘅政府部門啦。而家都比較緊要啲嘅機構啊，係咪？即係你諗下呢個副參謀長都喺度啊。咁啊頭先咧就嗰場咧仲要有國防部副部長㗎喺度啊。咁啊另外就有外交官啊嗰樣嘢，講烏克蘭嘅官員都喺度咧。咁所以咧呢度咧就會係叫你大家咧就係開始前嘅個半鐘就要到啦。咁咧就因為咧要 check 證件啦，佢哋當地咧就會有一啲烏克蘭發出嘅，即係審查完你之後就俾張 permit你，咁咧就愛嚟去嘅。咁啊查完證件之後，當然咧就會 check 晒隨身嘅物品啦，嗰樣嘢啦。咁啊保安都係肯定係好嚴密㗎啦，咁多高層喺度嚇。咁啊所以咧就係、而家咧就係咁樣嘅情況嘅，咁所以咧就要啲記者個半鐘頭前到啊，咁咧就要咧而家咧其實咧佢哋國防部烏克蘭嘅國防部咧就係出咗啲 working permit 就俾 journalist 即係俾各大記者啊或者攝影嘅人員咧。就去做呢樣嘢嘅，係啦，咁啊，係啊，就係都係要 check 㗎，呢啲都唔係簡單嘢㗎嚇。咁啊，肯定唔係咁簡單話入就入㗎啦，呢啲位咁啊，通常咧啲記者都會着咗避彈衣啦，咁啊你都好難整個軍屬探測器出嚟㗎啦，乜 Q 都響晒㗎啦，咁啊，所以通常都係人手逐樣 check 咯。 我睇下先嚇，有未咧？咁啊，今日咧，佢哋咧個情況咧都係一樣噶啦，被轟炸啦。咁啊，都係睇到唔同嘅片段啦，流出嚟嘅影片咧，同埋佢哋嗰 description 咧，都見到咧都係被炸到爛晒噶啦。好，等等啊！好啦，咁咧就翻嚟啦。好，咁咧就睇下有啲咩啦。咁啊，而家咧都有唔同嘅電星機啊。我 check 緊啲嘢嘅，係啊，一個電話入嚟咧，就打亂咗啲嘢。等等啦，我要 check 翻啲嘢先，睇下係咪有。未嘅，都仲未有，個會應該係 delay 咗。OK， 好，咁咧，我哋咧就睇下，其實咧琴日都有啲片段嘅，咁啊可以開翻啲片段俾大家睇啊。咁啊，頭先我哋咧都出咗一個直播咧，就係拜登啦，同埋呢個歐洲嘅委員會嘅主席啊，咁啊呢個烏爾蘇拉係啦，馮德萊恩啦係啦，咁啊發表咗聯合嘅聲明咧，都係講翻啲能源啊嗰樣嘢點樣繼續制裁啦，咁但係都係講嘅嘢居多啦嚇，咁啊睇。都仲係普通係制裁啦，咁啊冇乜特別大嘅問題，咁啊都係三幅被啦，咁啊當然係加咗啲制裁落去嘅，咁啊但係係咪即時可以做到咧？咁我覺得有所保留，係啦。就睇下先啦，我要開住就 keep check 住幾時開始，一開始咧就即刻知啦。好， 咁咧就同大家睇下啲片先，我哋睇下先啊。哇，好多 window 搞唔掂啊！成手都係 window 而家。咁啊有一個咧就琴日嘅，咁啊應該有一隊機場啦，基輔北面嗰個機場係唔記得咗個咩機場嘅，咁咧就反攻啊，烏克蘭反攻翻咧就自擊咗一紮咧就補給嘅車啊嚇，補給嘅軍車啊，俄軍嘅，咁咧就播緊俾大家睇㗎啦。睇好啦，大家都睇到啦，咁啊全部着晒火啦，咁啊係啦，你哋都聽到聲㗎啦，應該。咁咧呢個咧就係機場啊，基輔西北面嗰個機場啊，咁啊其實咧就俄軍咧其實都控制咗㗎，其實咁咧有啲好多補給車啦，咁但係咧烏克蘭嘅軍方咧就反攻啦，咁咧就係啊，咁啊所以咧都佢哋就好似係 OK 㗎嗱，見到個直升機啊，咁啊各樣嘢啦，係啦，同埋見到好多軍車着晒火啦、被燒啦，咁啊所以都傷亡慘重啊，俄軍應該就咁啊係啊。咁啊，佢哋之前咧就攞咗嗱啲軍事直升機、俄軍嗰啲啊、坦克啊各樣嘢都有，咁啊竟然就俾人反攻，咁啊俄羅斯都真係搞唔掂啦，搞成個月都搞唔掂。咁頭先前面喐嗰架係烏克蘭嘅。
Вот этот КамАЗ эвакуирует. Да, дежурка, почему дежурный? Бортовик. Бортовик, да, садись в бортовик, угоняй его туда. И потом, давай, я за тобой, короче, угоняю его. Ты автомат, оставь автомат. Бросай вниз, заберешь. Я за тобой еду. Давай, тут на КамАЗ эвакуировать,
咁啊，一陣間有咧，我就會同大家做直播，唔係即係轉播烏克蘭嗰度嗰個嘢啊，佢延遲咗啊嚇，咁啊 schedule 冇改過嘅，不過咧就未開波啫而家。咁啊，大家可以睇下片先。咁啊，希望大家多啲俾 like 啦 ，share 出去啦。咁啊，我哋做呢啲轉播咧，其實就一般出邊都唔會咁樣轉播噶啦，即係一般廣播頻道都唔會噶啦。 咁但係咧，我哋咧就會嘅，因為咧就想俾大家知道啦，即係第一身清楚了解啦，個本身烏克蘭裏邊嘅官方嘅説法啦，咁一般你見到咧就比較少嘅，通常都係引用佢哋講嘅某幾句 phrase 啦。咁有陣時其實你就唔係好了解到全部嘅，因為有陣時你睇到嘅即時啦，咁雖然有傳譯啦，但係你都仲可以睇到佢哋嘅眼神啊，各樣嘢啊，都有變化嘅，即係有啲嘢都會估到啲嘢啦。咁當然都係估啦，就唔係 exactly 知道啦，係咪？咁唔知大家中唔中意轉咗呢個新嘅形式啦？咁我通常就會教烏克蘭啦、裏邊啦、
бортовик, да, садись в бортовик, угоняй его туда. И потом, давай, я за тобой, короче, угоняй его. Ты автомат оставь, автомат. Бросай вниз, заберем. Я за тобой еду.
咁如果大家中意嘅就俾 like 啦，中意打字嘅俾我哋就話俾我聽啦，支持啦，係啦。咁會用呢個方式啦，嚟緊一路跟進啦，因為其實都已經打咗成個月㗎啦呢件事。咁所以咧其實咧都唔係少嘢啊嚇，好明顯啊。咁應該都係會搞到好耐㗎啦，有機會咧去到成個夏天6、7月啊，咁都未知啊，大家都係估下啦，咁但係咧都係可能咧有機會咧暑假都仲未玩完啊，咁呢場仗咧其實應該有排打，而家其實大家都講啦，咁不如再就講咗話。唔係美國，即係唔係OK，拜登咧就講咗咧 ，Joe Biden 咧就講咗會萬一俄羅斯咧出呢個生化武器咧，就即係佢哋會介入，咁至於呢個介入啲咩咧，幾多咧，咁就唔知啦，係咪？咁大家就睇下啦。咁咧就。嗱，而家你睇到啦，如果你啱啱入嚟咧，呢段片咧就係咧，琴日嘅烏克蘭嘅軍隊啦，咁就反攻啊基輔啊西北邊嗰個機場嘅叫咩名啊？唔好意思啊，而家唔方便 check， 其實可以 check 嘅，因為我啲機全部等緊啲嘢啊，等緊個直播都開晒，咁而家 check 唔到。咁咧其實咧就佢哋咧俄羅斯咧就攞咗落去就好耐㗎啦，咁但係咧控制到啦，亦都會見到有好多部忽車輛啦，有油車啦，亦都有直升機啦，軍用直升機啦，咁擺晒喺度，咁用緊㗎啦，咁俾烏克蘭嘅軍隊咧就反攻啦，反攻翻咧就炸到着晒火啊，咁後邊啦，如果你睇翻後邊咧，就係現時啦，烏克蘭裏邊附近啦，歐洲啦嘅飛機啦，係啦。咁咧就睇下有冇新嘅機先。咦，有隻新嘢飛出嚟喎，成日加埋落去先。咦，呢隻啲。多蘭空軍嘅睇下先，持續一啲嘢，加咗落去先。咁趁佢哋個會都未開住。
Вертолеты целые, что-то есть, да?
唔正常嘅。
КамАЗы забирать оттуда.
條 stream 係咁嘅，落去俾人跣咗。
БМК наша стоит, если не ошибаюсь. Вот КамАЗ
вот
стоит.
он, да.
Вот этот КамАЗ эвакуирует. Да. Война, дежурка, почему дежурный? Бортовик, да. Садись в бортовик, угоняй его туда. И потом, давай, я за тобой, короче, угоняй его. Да автомат, ставь автомат. Бросай вниз, заберешь. Я за тобой еду.
俾大家直播啊！咁啊，直播佢英文啦、講啦，咁啊英文講嗰啲咧我就唔出聲噶啦，嗰段時間啊，咁啊費事阻住大家聽嘅。
Давай, тут КамАЗ эвакуировать,
咁啊，我都同大家一齊聽啊，即係我冇啊，我淨係得個題目啊。睇完呢段片咧，就揾第二段片俾大家睇。咁啊，仲未開始喎。咁啊，睇下佢幾時開始先啦。咁啊，等等啦。睇下先，啲咩新嘅片俾大家睇啦。咁啊，有佢哋截擊一啲俄羅斯嘅軍車嘅片段啊，都係最新嘅啫。好，就開試下先。我驚死機啫，因為開得太多嘢喺邊度。開始啦，有直播啦，就睇咗直播先啦。好啦，開始啦，等等啊。
Добрий день, друзі. Я вітаю вас у медіа-центрі
Good afternoon, dear friends. Welcome to the Ukraine Media Center. I'm sorry for the delay with the start of our briefing because our next speaker, our general, has come here from frontline to tell us about the situation at the moment, about the defense of Kiev and Kiev province. So let us welcome Brigadier General, Head of Staff of Land Forces of Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Hruzevych. Alexander, you're welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Brigadier General Hruzevych, Deputy Head of General Staff of Land Forces of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Currently, the situation in Kiev and around Kiev has been stable and fully controlled by Ukrainian armed forces. There is a bit of tension around Irpin. The situation there is, say, intense, but we fully control it. About the defense of Kiev and Kiev province, currently in Brovary and Boryspil directions, the enemy has stopped their attempts and has been moving their troops and is not ready for active action, which is supported by results of radio interception and our intelligence data. On the right bank of Dnieper, around Irpin, as I said, situation is a bit tense, but we control it, and the enemy has been trying to renew their attack and to take Irpin, but they're not successful in that. About the situation in general in Kiev province, a huge area has been controlled in all our area of responsibilities. We have been making efforts, as I already said, to stop any firing from enemy's artillery systems and multiple launch systems against Kiev and Kiev outskirts. We have completely implemented those assignments. The only thing is, as I said, around Irpin and Lutish, the enemy has been firing on those towns. In the rest of the area, we have been working, and very soon you will learn about the results of those operations in the announcements by the General Staff. At the moment, I cannot announce this information as yet because, you know, as soon as you announce something, the enemy uses that information. So with all due respect for you here, we have had many cases already when we announce our plans and this information is disseminated too early and the enemy regroups their troops. And you know that in the military it's always important to take the enemy by surprise. It helps us to achieve success. So I would like to reassure you that we are doing something very successfully, and in the nearest future the results will be officially announced to you. On the rest of the matters, well, there is a small threat. You all know that there is a threat about Belarus, whether it will join this war, this invasion or not. But precautions have been taken, and even in the very worst case, even if it happens, we are ready for that. There are troops with their respective tasks. We are ready even for the worst scenario, even for the worst developments. So that's briefly it. If you have any questions, but please be brief, I have to move on. So, yeah, just several questions, and you're welcome.
Hi, Ronen Bergman, Yediot Achronot from Israel. Okay. Ronen Bergman, Yediot Achronot from Israel. We have heard few times about Russian attempts to close the siege over Kiev and go for, I think, what you call the second wave, initiate the second main attack or strike on the capital. Do you still think that this is possible? Do you think that this is coming? Do you think that the Russians still have the energy, the force, and the supply to initiate such an attack? What is the threat to close the siege over Kiev? Thank you very much.
About the enemy's plans trying to siege our capital city, enemy has such plans. Currently, the enemies say they try at any and every cost to achieve something, to get to the outskirts of Kiev or to get Brovary, to take Brovary or Boryspil, to come even closer. That's their strategic goal. But currently, we have taken action as commanded by Colonel General Syrskyi. We have taken action to prevent it. Do they have energy? Yes, there have been some announcements that they run out of rockets and all that, but based on the intensity of their shelling, we see that that's not the case. The enemy is still firing actively, especially against military infrastructure, against our military facilities. First of all, now they have changed their tactics. They monitor our air defense of our air forces and our artillery. And I can tell you already that they're afraid of those. And in the last 2 days, due to skilled operations of our guys, we have destroyed, like for this night, during this night alone, 3 tanks, about 10 armored carriers have been destroyed, and almost 50 soldiers have been killed already. I will not tell you in which location, in which area, but they have been killed. So, of course, there may be active action, but they are lacking forces. And believe me, we get information that now they have started mobilization in Dagestan. They are bringing troops, but to get them to Kiev, they need time. They cannot bring them by air. They still have some force, and in the nearest future, they will try to use those forces. So they have their plans to take the capital city. They have it. We are ready for that and for those plans. And now I know the situation, and I can reassure you that, you know, when you want something, it does not mean you will be able to do it. Our forces and our troops are ready, and we take active action now, and they will bring to zero those chances. Zbigniew Parafianovich from Dziennik Gazeta Prawna from Poland. In your view, can Russia use nuclear or biological or chemical weapons in Ukraine? I will share my own opinion, my personal opinion. Now Russia has passed the point of no return, and now they're like a little child, a baby. They're dangerous things, and that child doesn't know what to do about those things. Use of chemical or nuclear weapons, of course, we cannot exclude it completely, but are they themselves ready for that? Because they know the use of nuclear force in Ukraine would kill Russia as a nation, in my view, because the whole world will, you know, nobody needs nuclear war, and you understand it. We know cases when in Syria Russians would use chemical weapons, but then they would say, that's not us, we were not there. So, you know, there is this probability, and the commanders of Ukrainian armed forces, including our forces, take actions to, say, resist, not to resist, but, say, to implement our assignments even in this situation. We cannot completely exclude this probability. We cannot completely exclude it. We cannot eliminate it, but again, we cannot guarantee that they will use it, because it all depends on, you know, we don't know, maybe even they don't know what they have on their mind, and we don't know it. To put it in simple words, sorry for saying it this way, but we don't know what they have in their mind, and they don't know it.
Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation. According to what you say about the situation in the front line around Kiev, how you see the chances of the Russian to occupy Kiev in the next few weeks?
Maybe you misunderstood me. I said that they have their plans for that, but in the next weeks it will not happen. They don't have force to do that. They move their troops, they accumulate their troops, they bring their logistics, they try to bring new troops, but say, you know, as a strategic goal to take the capital city, they have it in their plans, but currently they have insufficient troops and forces to do it. Due to our resilient defense, due to our successful use of our capacity and our active action, currently it's almost impossible. What is city of Kiev? Kiev is like Grozny in Chechnya, but in bigger scale. So you know, you understand, to take a capital city, you need 3 or 5 more troops around Kiev than they have at the moment. They don't have as many troops. That's why I'm saying, and we don't stand still, you know. So in the near future, it's just impossible. Thank you. The last question. You're welcome.
I spent time in Lutsk and Lviv with our soldiers there, and they were very concerned that there may be an attack from the north, from Brest in Belarus, with Russian transport helicopters trying to maybe attack our western border to stop the flow of aid from NATO and from Europe. How have we prepared Ukraine for prevention of such a possible attack on Lutsk and Lviv?
About such attacks, recently the enemy has been striking with tactical rockets and air force from Belarus, and all logistics supplies are brought from there. But about whether it's possible to attack on the ground from there, we don't exclude it completely. So we have been taking some action to resist possible invasion from there. We have troops and forces there. But, you know, to stop our logistics from the west, to do that, they don't have forces for that. They can only make some rocket strikes to use their aviation. But believe me, currently, you know, it will be a bit problematic for them to do so. The probability for the enemy to strike from there, we cannot completely eliminate such probability. For that reason, we have taken action to prevent it or to minimize their active action in that area. That's what I can say at the moment, because, you know, to mention any more details, I cannot disclose any more detail now. General, a couple more questions, or you have to. Well, two questions. Could you please tell us what is the situation in Makariv at the moment? We hear statements from the government that Makariv has been liberated. At the same time, when we talk to the military, they say that it's impossible to get there. So has Makariv been liberated, or there is still combat action around Makariv? And if liberated, can we get there? As a military guy, I can get anywhere. I have just come from there. But, you know, Makariv currently is a gray area, so to say. They have not, they don't fully control it, and our troops don't fully, like nobody fully controls it at the moment, you can say. But we take actions, and very soon it will be done. Because via Makariv there is a key logistical route, logistical supplies route. So Makariv is. Just for you to understand, you know, the enemy has been scattered. And say in Irpin, they come there and then they leave it, they disappear. In Makariv, they come there and they leave. In village Gurivshina, they come there and they leave it. They jump in there, so to say. They make some attempts. They look for our weak links. They try to do some combat reconnaissance, where they could move forward, and they cannot. So currently Makarov is, you can say that it's almost gray area, like neither ours nor theirs. Last question.
I come from Greece, from Open TV. I would like to ask you, according to some scenarios, Russians don't care about Kiev, but they want to stabilize a line between Crimea, Mariupol, and Donetsk. Would you like to make a comment on this scenario?
One of the strategic goals, say, if they're not interested in our capital city anymore, then we consider such an option that they may try and make a corridor between Crimea and in the southern part and getting to the administrative and Mariupol and getting to the administrative boundaries of Luhansk and Donetsk provinces. That's another strategic goal of ours. That would enable them to set some preconditions for us, some requirements. But as a result of brave action, heroic action of our military, they are unsuccessful in that. As you see, all those attempts to take Mariupol do not result in success. Partially, they have some successes somewhere. Say they have moved deep into those provinces to some extent, but then they have been stopped. And in the last 3 days, their attempts to renew a full-scale offensive action are not successful. They're stopped almost everywhere. They're pushed back. So now there is some position war. Like the enemy is not making success there as yet. So we see that soon they will bring new troops, increase their efforts, and we are ready for that. Thank you. Thank you, General. Thank you. We'll let you go. Dear journalists, thank you. Now we are developing our schedule of our briefings for tomorrow. So please watch our Telegram channel, our Twitter, our Facebook. We will keep you informed of our plans for tomorrow.
Let's speak now, if we can, to the ambassador, or the Ukrainian ambassador to the United Kingdom, Vadim Prystaiko. Ambassador, great to have you on the programme this morning. I just wonder if we can start with the military efforts that are continuing to be made. There is an awful lot of disinformation that is flying around at this moment in the crisis, and largely coming from the Russian side. Can we put a number on the number of Russian soldiers that have been killed as a result of their war with Ukraine?
I've seen the numbers, which our official numbers is more than 14,000 people already. The United States estimating around 9-10. Russians are actually reducing, obviously, to a couple of thousands of these people dead.
How have you been able to achieve that? I mean, certainly, Vladimir Putin thought it would be a simple matter of mobilizing on the border, heading into Ukraine, where they would be welcomed as liberators, as heroes. Clearly, that hasn't happened.
I believe he's miscalculated a couple of things. First of all, that we are not just starting to fight. We've been fighting with him and with his proxy for 8 years. So our forces are sort of battle-hardened. At the same time, what we also have, that we are just defending our own land. That's what he mistake, that he still believes that we are the same people. We have our land and we have our direction to go. That's different from what he has for us.
It does feel, however, though, that the Russian tactics have changed significantly in the past few days. The advances that they've made have come to a halt. They appear to be regrouping, particularly in areas like around the capital and so on. But the artillery bombardment and the firepower from the air continues to smash cities, well, including but not limited to Mariupol.
You're right. They're using ships from the Black Sea. They're using the air and helicopters from occupied Crimea to get us. And most of the rockets just sent to peaceful cities like Kiev, like Odessa. They are threatening Odessa.
好啦，大家睇完啦，係我唔記得 cut 添，咁啊唔緊要啦。呢度咧就嗰隻咧頭先美軍嗰個咧就降落咗喎，喺波蘭嗰個機場啊。咁咧就喺波蘭最近烏克蘭嘅機場裏邊，咁咧就有啲奇怪嘅。咁咧就所以咧就突然之間咧就直播中咧我加多個畫面俾大家睇啊，就係咁啦，因為有啲奇怪啊，咁所以就同大家睇下呢個位，咁咧就而家咧就放翻大啲畫面先，等等啦，校一校啲畫面，跟住同大家 update 下呢方面嘅情況啦，係啦，唉得啦，而家可以放。使用嗰個好，執啲畫面先，等等啦。咁咧就落咗㗎啦。頭先嗰隻叫做美軍嗰隻叫咩啊？頭先嗰隻係係啦，因為嗰啲都飛就降落咗咧，就得返呢隻。而家開返先啊！就睇下有冇新嘅飛機啦，同大家睇下啦。咁都比較特別嘅，有啲都嗱呢度有隻啦，咁就係啦。呢隻咧就 C17啊，咁就似乎就飛過啦。咁究竟飛去邊咧就未知。睇下先，呢個唔係。皇家空軍隻右邊啦，有一隻啦，皇家空軍嘅運輸機啊 C17，咁咧就出發啦，啱啱喺 Cyprus 嘅空軍基地。咁咧就睇下先啦，仲有冇多啲咧？就揾到咧，就咁俾大家睇下。都繁忙啊！今日就好特別啊，星期五咧就忙到咁咧就有啲怪。不過咧就唔知啊，咁照正常咧就好少咁多啊。而家連意大利嘅電偵機都出，咁有啲怪嘅，確實係。咁呢隻 low call size 都古惑惑。唔知係咩嚟嘅，睇住先。呢隻咧，呢啲可能係假機嚟嘅，軍機版嘅有機會，不過唔知啊，睇咗先知。 呢隻皇家空軍應該出緊發啦，去緊啦，係啦，要繼續出緊發，準備咧就去呢個幫手啦嚇。睇個飛行方向咧，同埋個路徑咧就似啦。咁啊，再睇埋啲 telemetry 嗰啲飛行高度啊，嗰樣嘢咧就應該更加清楚。咁呢隻係。咁啊，如果你而家先入嚟咧，咁咧就不如翻轉頭啦，因為咧兩場直播咧，今日咧喺烏克蘭嘅直播咧都完咗噶啦。咁但係咧你可以拉翻條巴咧去後邊睇嘅。咁啊，而家咧我哋咧就直播完之後咧，跟住咧我哋咧就而家同大家咧就睇緊當時啦，烏克蘭附近啦嘅國家波蘭啊、羅馬尼亞嗰扎嘅領空上邊咧有咩機啦。咁啊，有咩機附入去緊咧？咁而家咧就有，而家睇到咧畫面咧左上角咧嗰隻咧就係 NATO 嘅NATO 嘅01啊。咁咧就係國家咧就係屬於呢個係唔識到喎。呢個係咩國家咧？真係唔識喎。好，打出嚟先，等等啦，揾下先。 盧森堡哦，盧森堡嘅呢同001係一架咧E3A 嘅。就而家喺波蘭上空。好啦，咁咧就 set 咗呢個，咁我咧就因為呢個直播咧，我就會完咗先，跟住咧就會開翻一個就睇飛機嘅，大家中意睇飛機咧就一齊睇啦。好，咁咧就而家呢個直播咧就完啦，我哋一陣間再開個直播就睇飛機嘅，咁啊多謝大家支持啊！咁因為有啲朋友咧就未必中意睇飛機嘅，咁我完咗呢個啦，咁啊費事一陣間剪輯咧就比較麻煩。因為比較長嘅直播咧就比較麻煩，你要等好耐先可以剪輯到。好，咁多謝大家支持啦。咁咧就喺度咧完咗呢個節目先。好啦，咁我哋好快就即刻有 notification 啊，或者你去我哋嘅 channel page 嗰度等下啦，咁我就會有噶啦。好，係咁先啦。好，多謝各位支持，拜拜。